Hello kind people of YouTube and welcome back to another video. As always, we have a lot to talk about today, so let's jump straight into it by taking a look at the markets. Because for the first time in a while we are seeing significant and surprising movement today. As you can see here, pretty much everything uniformly shot up by often over 10% today. This happened from 1 hour to the next with no real warning. We see some coins up over 10%, xRapid is up 12%, EOS is up and beautiful 18%, Litecoin just over 10%, and we see IOTA and Dash also up about 10% out of the major tokens here, the major coins. Nobody quite knows why this happened. I think we will probably find out some speculation tomorrow, but it might be hard to tell what the exact cause for this was. But it seems to be a movement in the entire market where roughly 10% is gaining across the board. As you can see on the 7-day graphs here, for most coins, this undid the losses from the last couple days and brought them back to a level that they were over a week ago. So for now, this is looking very promising, most importantly because at least for the short term, this gets us out of the pattern that we've seen continuing for the last couple of weeks. This takes us outside the downward pattern where a lot of technical indicators were pointing towards a further downward movement. We might finally see that broken now, but don't get too excited as we do not know what caused this. That means this can end just as quickly as it began. Not much else to talk about in the markets here because we simply don't know why this happened, and there's not much to say except, hey, everything is up, it looks beautiful. But there is one significant thing that happened, and that is the price of Ethereum compared to the price of Bitcoin Cash. If you've been around for a while, if you remember when Bitcoin Cash was created, you will most likely know that it has always had a significantly higher price, usually significantly higher, but always a higher price than Ethereum. Today, for the first time ever, that relationship was flipped. Now, I'm not talking about market cap here. Ethereum's market cap has pretty much always been higher than Bitcoin Cash's. But the actual price per token, it has now gotten to the point where despite some major losses for Ethereum in the last couple months, Bitcoin Cash has fallen so much more in comparison that for the first time ever, it is now at a lower value. And let's read this article. As always, all articles linked in the description for you to read yourself. Cryptocurrency markets were showing signs of life today, but the major focus was on Ethereum, which passed the price of Bitcoin Cash for the first time. Data from Cointelegraph's price tracker Coin360, CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap confirm the ongoing battle within the top 10 altcoins, with Ether trading around $90.86 compared with Bitcoin Cash on $88.63. Previously, Bitcoin Cash had traded above the market price of Ethereum since its creation in August of 2017. And you can see a graph here for the last week where the scale here is percentual, so 1 means they're worth exactly the same. 1.05 means Bitcoin Cash is worth 5% more than Ethereum. 1.1 means Bitcoin Cash is worth 10% more than Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. So here we see the movement. It progressively slid down in value as compared to Ethereum, and with a ridiculously large drop today, it is now the first time ever that an Ethereum token costs more than a Bitcoin Cash token. Now you might wonder, why are we talking about this? Because ultimately, yes, the value of the individual token doesn't matter that much. What is more important is the total market cap, the value of all the tokens on the market, because otherwise somebody could just decide to make a smaller number of tokens and denominate them at 10. Someone could decide to make 1% the number of tokens but denominate them at 100 times the amount one would otherwise. So of course the individual token amount is not that important. What is important is that this shows us the development between Ethereum gaining power and Bitcoin Cash losing power against each other. And you have to keep in mind here, in the general crypto markets, Ethereum has arguably lost power since it has moved down from number 2 to number 3 recently. But Bitcoin Cash has been doing so spectacularly badly since a couple days before the hard fork that it has now gotten to this point for the first time ever. And we don't really need to read the rest of this because they're just going through general market stuff, but we've already talked about all of that just now. They're also noting here that nobody quite knows what happened and which coins moved up the most, but we've done most of that. Let's look at some news and statements made in the crypto world instead. Looking a bit further than just what is happening in the markets right now, the CEO of BitPay believes mass crypto adoption is now only at most 5 years away. BitPay CEO Stefan Fair, I'm awfully sorry, has gone on record to say that he believes that mass crypto adoption is only 3 to 5 years away. He talked about the possibility of wider adoption when recently chatting to the American news network CNBC. 1 year ago, when Bitcoin prices scaled the heights of $20,000, crypto adoption seemed to be even closer than ever before and only a matter of time. However, Karma heads believe that 10 years was closer to the real number. The BitPay head honcho believes mass crypto adoption is closer than we think. In the interview with CNBC, Stefan Fair talked about the... I'm so sorry, I just don't know if that's Stefan or Steven, if that's Fair, I assume it's Fair. Talked about the potential of the Bitcoin ETF and the possibilities of mass crypto adoption. When asked if the Bitcoin ETF would speed up wider adoption, Fair said that the ETF is not the be-all or end-all of the crypto industry. Thank you. He pointed out that wider adoption will push prices higher if history is a guide. When talking about the timeline of mass crypto adoption, the BitPay boss was quoted as telling CNBC that, "I used to say 10 years, but now I think it's more like 3 to 5 years, until you can go into a restaurant, a retail establishment, and just everyone's going to expect that the store will be able to accept a blockchain payment." And this is certainly optimistic. I'm not sure I would quite go as far as to say in 3 or 5 years we can expect just any store to accept crypto, but okay, just hear me out here, because he might be talking about America specifically, and then he might have a bit of a stronger point, but there are significant differences in how fast different places around the world adopt new technology. And even in the fastest countries, a change this massive in 3 to 5 years, crypto becoming so mainstream that it's just expected that most, if not all, stores will accept it, I think that is a bit too short a time frame. Now, credit cards. Credit cards have been around for decades. You know where a lot of stores have only recently started accepting credit cards? In Germany. One of the most influential economic powers in the world. A very progressive country. And we are only now starting to embrace credit cards. A lot of people have had credit cards for a long time, but only recently have you been able to walk into any random supermarket and pay with a credit card. It used to be that most of them accepted debit cards. Credit cards? Almost nobody. If you go into a restaurant, a lot of restaurants, especially in some of the larger cities, surprisingly, in Germany, they have signs saying we only accept cash. So when I see these utopian predictions that in 3 to 5 years you can go into a restaurant or retail establishment and just expect that they accept blockchain, I think that might be a bit too enthusiastic here, a bit too hopeful. I think what we're going to see is that cryptocurrency is going to permeate a lot of back-end things first and then slowly move to the end user. In 10 years, I think it's much more likely that it will be commonplace to accept crypto, but at the rate we are going right now, and there's absolutely stuff happening, but I don't see this current trend continuing to such an exponential rate that in 3 to 5 years you can just use crypto just about anywhere. I think in 3 to 5 years you will have a relatively good likelihood that there will be a store in your area that accepts crypto for whatever you need right now. In a couple of years, if you want to pay in crypto, there will probably be an opportunity around you. But I don't think we will be quite at the point yet where he doesn't say every store, but he's framing it in a way that you can just expect stores to accept crypto. So you would, in his prediction here, you would probably expect at least 90% of stores to accept crypto. I'm not quite sure we will be that fast. Have to keep in mind here, especially larger retailers that have to update the technology in all their stores. That is a large commitment to update to new technology, to accept new payment methods, especially while they are still very volatile. I don't think cryptocurrencies will become a viable mass option for point of purchase until we see a lot more stability in the markets. Because as it stands right now, some big companies accept crypto, but a lot of companies, big and small, are worried about the fluctuations. If you're selling a product for a particular price because you need to make that money back to pay for the cost that went into either creating or procuring it, you can't risk getting paid in a currency that might just see a random 20% drop tomorrow, and that might then see another 15% gain 2 days later. But if you can't be certain that your money will be worth what it was worth a week ago, then it makes it a lot less attractive for retail. As it stands right now, retailers lose nothing by not accepting crypto. There isn't enough market demand. There is so much volatility. There aren't really that many comfortable solutions to integrate it yet. There's just very little reason for any retailer, except for retailers that either personally believe in crypto if they're a small company, or that want the positive press and the hardcore crypto audience to start buying from them. There is very little mainstream appeal to accepting crypto. And first, that needs to change. I don't think that is going to change overnight. I think that is going to be a slow process that takes a couple of years. And then after that has changed, after the incentives are aligned to actually accept crypto, it will still take a while for that to actually be implemented. Especially for larger companies, you have to keep in mind. These are the kind of things that you need to plan. You need to plan likely with a committee of experts. You are likely talking to a bunch of different companies that might provide the solution. You have to consider which cryptocurrencies you are going to accept. Then you have to get that all through legal, who look at every part of that, who look at any potential issues. That can take months. You might have to present it to, oh my god, my brain is farting right now. I'm having such a brain fart. Not the CEO, the board. You might have to present it to the board. If anyone at the board has issues with it, you might have to completely rethink the plan, go through all those steps again, change it up a bit, present it to the board again. After the boards then finally agree on it, you need to actually implement that. If you have hundreds of thousands of stores, that is going to be another thing that takes months or years. Like, I think it's very utopian to say 3 to 5 years here. But if you move that back to 8 to 10 years, I'm with him. I am with him. I would like to see it in 3 to 5 years, but that strikes me as wishful thinking. It's there is immense potential in the crypto world, and we're moving at a breakneck pace, but we're not quite moving at that breakneck pace right now. And that is pretty much all we really need to read here. He also noted that right now crypto prices are driven not by actually utility, but by speculation. But honestly, we all knew that, right? We all knew that right now, in this immature market, the price that a crypto asset has very little to do with its real-life use cases, with its real-life utility, with how many people are actually using it, with how many companies are willing to implement it. It has much more to do with the hype around any given coin, with the market sentiment, with whatever misinformation is being spread on social media right now, and whatever fears investors have. Now let's get to actual news and not opinions. We have a major Cardano upgrade coming tomorrow. We knew this update was coming, but not the exact date yet. Charles Hoskinson, Cardano's founder, has confirmed that Cardano 1.4 will be released on December 18th. The Cardano project has caught the attention of many enthusiasts and developers in the market after releasing 2 new smart contract tools. The information about the release data was shared by Hoskinson on Twitter a few days ago. Although the market has been falling since the beginning of the current year, several projects continue to expand. Cardano is one of these projects. In general, Cardano's team has always been focused on real developments rather than on the price of the ADA cryptocurrency. A few days ago, we wrote about Cardano launching new smart contract tools. I just plug in their own old article here, but that's fine, I do that with my videos. We explained that the new implementations are called Plutus and Marlow and that have been launched as a test. Now Hoskinson announced that the new Cardano 1.4 will be released on December 18th. Dataless users will be receiving a notification on the matter next week. He wrote on Twitter, "After 7 release candidates and a huge amount of QA work," that's quality assurance, I believe it is. I know what it means, but not which exact terms it stands for. I'm pleased to announce that our best effort release date for Cardano 1.4 is December 18th. Dataless users will get an in-client update notification next week. Thanks everyone for your patience and support. This is very important for the whole ecosystem because it will be the most significant update experienced by the Cardano ecosystem. It will be including amendments to the codebase, more storage capacity, and will lay the foundation for making Cardano a fully decentralized network. Now this is something not everyone surprisingly knows this, even Cardano supporters, but Cardano is one of a recent batch of cryptocurrencies that are starting in a relatively controlled, centralized environment, and are then made progressively more decentralized in tech upgrades. That is a strategy that some cryptocurrencies are now using, and Cardano is taking a large step in that direction with upgrade 1.4. And we don't really need the rest of this as usual. I've said a bunch of times in the past, I very much like how Cardano is dealing with updating their systems, with working on their systems. Unlike a lot of other cryptocurrencies, there's very little hyping up stuff. There's very little of a focus on the price or on the market movements within their community. And instead you hear a lot of people actually talking about the features, talking about the technology, talking about which new upgrades are in the works, what people are currently creating on there. So that is always very promising. Now them pushing out a major upgrade planned for tomorrow. Now that of course does not necessarily mean it will happen exactly tomorrow, but that is the plan. It might happen a couple hours later, and that sometimes happens in the crypto world. But very interesting here. I think Cardano is definitely one to watch for the next couple of years. And at the incredibly low price that it is right now, I personally think there are very few ways you can go wrong with an investment in Cardano. They have very smart people developing their tech, and I think they're probably going places. But as I always say, do your own research, and I am not a professional financial advisor, so never put your money into something just because I told you it's promising, okay? Never trust me, I can be wrong. Or I could be biased, or you wouldn't know that. I don't even know if I'm biased. So don't just listen to me, do your own research. But Cardano to me looks incredibly promising, and this constant flow of upgrades, this constant flow of new tools that they're developing that will continue its decentralization, that will add new features, that will improve its scalability. Cardano is looking to be an incredibly potent platform for the future. And talking about another incredibly potent platform, Ripple has it's not really a new partnership, but Ripple now has the first bank actually using their technology for international transfers, and there are some rumors that this might be xRapid. Akbank, a Turkish bank, has announced that it is using Ripple's blockchain technology to transfer pounds to UK's Santander Bank from Turkey. As the most devastating bear year approaches the end, some good news comes afloat as Olga Ulutas, I probably mispronounced that, I'm sorry, Executive Vice President in charge of direct banking, made his satisfaction of becoming the first... Is Olga a man's name? I thought Olga was a woman's name. Made their satisfaction of becoming the first bank to use Ripple's blockchain technology for cross-border payments clear. Referring to the announcement made last year about adopting Ripple's blockchain technology, Ulutas said that they've started international money transfers using blockchain technology. He continued, "Now we have started to transfer money from pounds via Ripple to Santander UK with blockchain infrastructure. With this important technology, our customers will now be able to benefit from the possibility of transferring money to international money transfers at a much lower cost. With the participation of new banks in the system, we continue our journey to expand this service through cooperation with different banks." GMT, Israel's largest and leading financial services company, announced in their blog that they are authorized in using Ripple's blockchain technology. The blog stated, "GMT is joining companies like MoneyGram, American Express, CIBC, Airport, Akbank, and many more who are already authorized to use Ripple's platform. Although there are no mentions about the use of xRapid to facilitate the transactions, some people in the community are speculating that it could be xCurrent and not xRapid." Back in June, Brett Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, said at CB Insights that he is sure at least one bank would use XRP. He meant by the end of the year. He said, "I have publicly said we expect this year for at least one bank to use XRP in their payments flow to use xRapid." When asked if he was sure, he replied that he was 100% sure. The community is putting two and two together and speculating that this could very well be that bank, as 2018 only has 15 days left. So, interesting here. Interesting. Now, there are definitely reasons to believe that xRapid might be working here, especially since we have multiple sources claiming that this is a first. Now, I believe other banks are already using Ripple's technologies, but they might be in testing stages and might not be live for international transfers yet. So we have the claim here that this is the first time that a bank is really using their technology actively for consumer transfers. But of course, the statement from Garlinghouse here making it seem like they might be using xRapid because they haven't explicitly stated anything about whether they're using xCurrent, xRapid, xVia. No statements whatsoever about that, which adds to the rumors about this possibly being xRapid here. But you do have to keep in mind, this is a statement from June, and in business, a lot of plans often have to get pushed back, have to get changed, announcements get moved around. It is very much possible that he was talking about a bank that was set to go live with xRapid, but had to possibly push it back until early next year. He might be talking about a bank that actually went live with it already, but that hasn't announced it yet. So don't believe 100% that we're going to hear a clear statement this year. This bank is now using xRapid. Plans change. Even if he was 100% certain about this in June, that was half a year ago. That was when xRapid wasn't live yet. Plans change, circumstances change, and sometimes things just also aren't announced until after they happened. So don't expect that we're definitely getting a statement before the 31st of December that a bank is using xRapid. One might be using it without us knowing it. This might be one using it, or they might have pushed that back to 2019, or it might have fallen through, or they might have had technical issues. Many things can change. But a Redditor does have a theory for what might be going on here and for why it might be xRapid. And I quote, "They are transferring British pounds to Santander. This means they are using Santander as a hub to pay out in multiple currencies with one bilateral relationship. Santander will send the needed currency to the recipient. Multi-hub does not require xRapid, but the most efficient multi-hub payments are done through xRapid." So the argument here essentially that because they seem to be using multi-hub here, and that multi-hub is significantly more efficient, cheaper, faster on xRapid, that they are likely using xRapid here. Now, of course, it just being cheaper is not, or more efficient, is not a guarantee that they're using xRapid, because xRapid is, of course, a larger... Sorry, I keep forgetting my words today. That's a larger commitment to make for a bank because xRapid is a less tested technology. You take more of a risk. You get deeper into the blockchain world because you're using a crypto token. That is a bigger sell to make, and that is why a lot of banks are starting with xCurrent. That, and of course xCurrent simply having been around for longer. But this could very well be xRapid here, and ultimately what we're seeing here is good for Ripple and for XRP either way. Like I keep saying, any partnership that Ripple goes into, any company that starts using Ripple, any bank that starts using Ripple to send money, is ultimately good not just for Ripple but also for XRP. Even if they do not use the XRP token in different ways. For starters, of course, Ripple's business strategy, get them into their system, get them into the Ripple ecosystem, and then upsell them to xRapid, to using the XRP token. So if they are using any of Ripple's technologies, that is a first step to using XRP. So that is a way in which it's good for XRP. Then, of course, Ripple as a company largely benefits from this, is making money, is building their connections, is building their profile, is testing their technologies, is proving that they can do what they claim to do. This helps the public image surrounding Ripple, which once again also helps XRP because Ripple and XRP are closely aligned. This helps them develop a larger network of companies that they might be able to push their products, including XRP to, or rather including xRapid using XRP. Another way in which any partnership that they have helps XRP. And of course, ultimately, Ripple will have a lot more funding behind them that they can invest in improving xRapid and in pushing it to more companies. Once again, helping XRP. Now, Ripple and XRP, or rather Ripple has been trying to distance themselves a bit from XRP recently because a lot of people are uninformed about their relationship. A lot of people think the token is called Ripple. A lot of people think the token and the company is the same thing. That is of course absolutely not true. But they are closely linked in many ways, and anything that helps Ripple helps XRP. Anything that helps XRP ultimately helps Ripple. Sometimes those connections are not quite obvious if you don't take a closer look, but there are a myriad ways in which anything good happening to Ripple, any new partnership, is ultimately good to XRP in at least one indirect way. So even if this is not using xRapid, which we have some speculation saying this might be xRapid, but nothing certain, even if this is not using xRapid, that is still good for XRP. And that is why I keep talking about Ripple news. Some people, you always get these same smart-ass comments under every video. Well, this is just xCow and they're not using XRP. I know that. It's still relevant for the XRP token because their brands are associated. The company Ripple is actively working on developing XRP and XRP-based technologies, is actively pushing XRP-based technologies, is building connections to ultimately get XRP in people's hands. So of course, whenever there's news that Ripple is working with a new company, whether they've announced that they're using the XRP token or not, I'm going to talk about it because it's all good for XRP. At the very least, this is all good for Ripple's public image and stature. This is good for them being seen as a big player who delivers. And what are people going to associate with that? Their other major project, which has the XRP token hard-coded in. So don't let people distract you. There's a lot of either outright misinformation or misleading information around Ripple and XRP out there. A lot of memes that people keep repeating without really knowing what it means or understanding why it matters or doesn't matter. Another one is the constant chorus of XRP might be a security. That is also ultimately not meaningful, but I don't want to talk about all that right now. I'm gonna end this video because I'm rambling. As always, thank you so much for watching. You might have noticed I didn't do a video yesterday. I was a bit too busy, sorry for that. If you want to read any of these articles yourself, the links are in the description. In the description you will also find links to my social media pages, as well as ways to support this channel if you feel so inclined. Those are ways to support the channel monetarily, but if you don't want to or cannot give me any money, then there are some other ways that I would really appreciate just a tiny bit of help. If you could just leave a like or comment, or ideally both, under this video, that would be incredibly appreciated. I know every YouTuber tells you to do that, but you might not understand just how important it really is for a channel to grow. I've noticed the last couple days I've asked you guys explicitly to leave likes and comments, and so many of you guys have been doing it. Thank you so much. I've been getting so many more likes and comments than usual. And I've already noticed significant effects on how much YouTube is pushing my content to new people. Because all of you have been liking and commenting under my videos, so many new people have found my videos. My videos have been doing well for so much longer than they usually do. And it really, really helps. So thank you to anyone who's been leaving likes and comments. And if you could do it again, if you could make that a habit when you're watching my videos, that would be incredibly appreciated. And I'll be back with another video tomorrow. Keep being awesome.